All right.
Funny. All right,
I
I'm
do
going
need to
to.
apologize to you guys. I said that I had signed up for the pro version of Zoom last week. Turns out I didn't, which is why we just crashed at 30 minutes. But I did it immediately after that. It bothered me that when I went through the process, they didn't ask me for a credit card or anything. And I says, how do they know what to charge it to? And then I walked away, not investigating or anything. And it turns out I probably did something wrong. So I did it right the second time. They got my money this time.
So, Ray, do you want to start scheduling the meetings or do you want me to do it?
Oh no, no, I love having somebody that knows what they're doing.
All right, I'll take care of it.
But I can serve as a backstop now, which while I'm thinking of it, next week I'm going to be on travel and not available for the meeting. So I'm hoping that we'll have a couple of things that we can do that you all can do without me. And I'm thinking specifically about things that we might be able to move forward on digital equity. I assume that Elaine is going to be there. Good, good,
I can indeed.
excellent. Okay, my hope today is that we can talk through some of the issues that came up last week, mostly under Chris Waite's discussion. I don't think in 30 minutes we had anywhere near the time we needed to talk about some of those things. So why don't we go at it right now? The first item that I put on the agenda was the RFP. And Chris seemed to advocating that we don't really need to do the RFP. And I think from a technical point of view, he's probably right, because if MCA isn't going to require it, then we don't have to do it. My personal view, though, is that if we go through the RFP process, we'll get a set of information from whoever responds that come from a level playing field. In other words, they'll have a set of questions that they have to answer. I have the feeling that what we've gone through, I think, has been very useful to us because we started from zero. And to varying degrees, we talked to the different potential partners. But I think one of the points I made last week was that we only know what they told us. We don't know what they didn't tell us. So unless we ask them the right questions, we don't get all the right information. So I'm still in favor of going forward with the process, particularly since the select board said we should, we have their approval to do that. So we have no impediment to doing it, except for one question that I asked Ken to get an answer for me. And it had to do with making sure that Mission Broadband is on board with our sharing the RFP that Ken's going forward to us once he sends it in. It's supposed to go out this afternoon. I don't want to get crosswise with Mission because we have no formal relationship with them, and therefore we have no right to the eSport RFP unless they say yes, we do. So once I get that, then I'd like to start working on it with Elaine. And I don't think it's going to be much of a slog to change the eSport specific information into Perry specific information, because there's really only the first two sections that need to be rewritten. I'm not going to change any of the technical information. First of all, I'm not qualified to do it. And second of all, it looked good to me to the extent that I understood what they were talking about.
So Esports RFP went live this afternoon, and they did include, without mentioning Perry by name, they did include that uh, neighboring communities. They
Okay,
did include that in the language, that this could include a wider geographical area. Um, I will say that there was already a response from one ISP who was saying, could we have a little more time due to the July 4th? I think Eastport, if I remember correctly, is basically they've got to July 15th. I believe that's when the RFP window closes. And there was already interest from an ISP who said, look, July 4th week is super busy. Is there any chance of extending that out? And that's up
okay,
to Eastport, not up to me.
right,
But they did include language that as vague enough, yet identify if somebody does their homework, they can recognize who Esport's talking about. Just through simple geographic locations.
right.
Um, so it did go out, it went live today, and there was immediately a bite from an ISP saying, could we have a little more time due to the July 4th holiday?
Okay,
Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Ken says, or what Ken learns rather, from Mission Broadband. So we'll find out, or from MCA about sharing that information.
right.
Uh,
I did also contact Kendra Joe to ask whether there was any mechanism by which we could make use of Mission Broadband in an approved and formal way. And she gave me a response that I think I understand, and it really came down to whether or not we and Eastport and probably Sabayag intended to submit a regional proposal, grant proposal. And she said if that was the case, then we would be eligible to use Mission Broadband, even though we don't have the grant monies to do that. Now, that's not going to be the case, I don't think. I don't think any of us have talked about actually submitting a single proposal for all three of us. And I'm not sure it's a great idea.
I will say that if the last I knew with MCA, at least with the last round of grant funding, and I cannot imagine that it has changed, is that if Eastport, Pleasant Point, or Zabiak and Perry were to submit individual grant applications, MCA would squish them together as a regional and say, we're going to put this together as a regional plan.
Mhm.
So whether they're separate or all as one, MCA will, if all three communities do, MCA will squish them together as a regional plan.
Well, if their intent is to fund all three, that's great.
Here comes Scotty. Yep, well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. If the intent is all three, but if it's not, so there's no harm that I see in sending in separate proposals.
No, I don't either.
Hey,
Especially
Scott.
if only one of them can swim.
Fair enough.
Hi, Scotty.
Doing.
All right.
Scott, so I just let the committee know that Eastport went to RFP officially this afternoon, about 2 o'clock or so, thereabouts. They did include some vague language, not identifying Sabayag or Perry as partners or anything else, but just saying this build could include a larger geographic area. So that went live this afternoon, not mentioning any communities by name. And there's one ISP already chomped at that and said, hey, can we have more time? because of the July 4th holiday week, a lot of people take it off. So there's already action within like a half hour of that disbursement of the RFP. So there's already action on it. So
Well, can I have discussion on this, please?
From me?
Everybody.
Oh,
What,
Yeah,
what part are we discussing? The communities like Pleasant Point and Eastport along with us requesting a
que-
grant or requesting RFP or submitting a grant without the RFP? Which one are we discussing?
I think the question that I put on the table was whether we should go forward and submit the RFP for Perry.
Didn't Chris mention at the last meeting something about it may be too soon to go that route? Or am I mistaken?
Well, I don't see it his way. It's one of the few opportunities that I've had to disagree with him, because from my point of view, since we're not entering into any commitment, what we're doing is we're still doing what we've been doing from the very beginning, that is gathering information. And from my point of view, the more information we can get, especially if we can get consistent information, the better off we're going to be as a community to actually evaluate that information and make decisions. And since we've got the possibility of using somebody else's hard work in putting out the RFP, I'd really like to take advantage of that opportunity. It may not come next time.
I don't object to any of that.
Good.
yeah, why not? I mean, if it's information coming back to us, we'll have it.
Right. I mean, if the ISPs want to change, what they propose, they're at liberty to do that anytime. This is just a formal process that gives us the information so that we can look at it now. And that's what I want to do. John?
Is there a possibility that without submitting a grant request, that we might be missing out on some grant money, or does Perry not compete with other people that are more underserved? I guess my question is, if we pursue the RFP, are we missing an opportunity for any grant money that might be hanging out there now?
I don't see where the RFP has to do with anything. The RFP doesn't say, as far as I can remember, it doesn't say anything about what we're going to do with the information. What we're doing is asking for the information. So if we wanted to, I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. If we wanted to use this to go to USDA, that information would be equally valid, unless they put some sort of timestamp on there and said, this is only good for 6 months or whatever. Does that
So
seem
there's-
reasonable, Elaine?
yeah, so these are great questions and great comments. So going to RFP does not obligate the town of Perry in any way whatsoever. Basically, what you're doing is you are officially asking ISPs for all the ISPs you've met with. Final answer, what is your best offer? Because we're being serious right now. And they will have to put into writing or just ignore your RFP, not respond to it. And it may come back with an ISP saying, but wait, we are willing to build out in your community and we will apply for the grants. All you need to do is write a letter of support saying, yes, we do want to partner with this particular ISP. And then you can, then the ISP will then go ahead and apply for grants on behalf of the town of Perry.
Right.
So there's really nothing to lose by this. It is like that. What is that game show that used to, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something? Where it's like, okay, ISPs, final answer. This is official. What they're putting into writing. So it would be interesting what will come back that you may not have access to. And we'd have to find that's yet another question for Kendra Joe, in all honesty, I would say. So all of because esports gone to RFP officially, all of those technical pages the answers to like the 20-page RFP are all going to Mission Broadband. Mission Broadband will then kind of do a drilled down report on each response from each ISP because it's a lot of pages and a lot of technical stuff for a broadband committee to weigh through. That's why Mission Broadband is having them all sent to them because they are the technical experts on this. So they will put down like, kind of answer to A is this, answer to B is this, so that the town or the city of Eastport can look at them side by side and make a recommendation rather than, as smart as and how much all of you guys have learned, that it's still very technical stuff. So whether or not MCA would allow Mission Broadband to do that for you, that would be another question. Like if you went to RFP, esports is, so the RFP, it's 20 pages long.
Right.
So it kind of so Mission Broadband will be putting into language that you and I can understand and say, this is what it is they're offering. So that's something to ask Kendra Joe, like if we go to RFP and we do want to submit at the same time Eastport does, is that something Mission Broadband could do for us? Is to drill that
That's
in.
that's kind of the nature of the question I asked her, and her response was only if we were doing a regional thing.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how much Mission Broadband would charge just to do that one thing?
I don't know. I don't know. I can connect you with Mission Broadband if you'd like.
Okay.
You want me?
I mean, I kind of remember the two guys,
Yeah, Jeff Nevins and JD or John Doherty.
Doherty, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm making a note to myself here to connect you.
All right.
But it doesn't do any harm to go to RFP. It's just like, okay, you've met with all these ISPs. They gave you their pitch. An RFP is like, okay, guys, final answer in writing. This is not just a meeting.
Right.
Give us what you've got. So it may come down to be, I don't know. It could come down to be that one of the RFPs or one of the ISPs approaches you and says, look, we'll do the build out. What we need is a letter of support. If we get the grant, then we go forward. And if not, so that is a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I may be wrong, but I thought we were trying to dance around that a little bit with Simon. And it seemed to me that he might have considered it if we'd have shown some sort of enthusiasm to put up the 100K that we need to put up to.
Okay, and here's where it comes down to be that why, excuse me, for example, why Eastport made reference to a larger geographical area without committing Perry or Pleasant Point, to say, you know, like a teaser sort of thing. There could be more in this for you, uh, you know, with surrounding communities, but we're talking about us right now. So it kind of makes ISPs responding to that RFP take a look at the region and say, okay, Perry, Pleasant Point, Eastport, what can we do with this? And so, you know, there's nothing to lose by going to RFP. There's nothing. It doesn't commit the town of Perry to anything. Nope. But it is an official response from the ISPs. This is our best deal.
I mean, one of the other things that are drifting around in my head is the fact that if we don't act on this, you know, within the next few weeks, we can't get a response in time to do us any good for a grant proposal that we would want to give to MCA. So it's not like this is a decision that we can delay for a long period of time. And I guess that's part of what makes me antsy about, well, we can make the decision, but we should make the decision soon. Maybe today.
And that's up to the committee. I will say that Eastport chose I believe their close date on RFPs is 1 month from today. As I said earlier, one ISP has asked for an extension of a week due to a lot of people taking the week of July 4th off, which a lot of people do. So I don't know what Eastport will or will not decide about that. But the timing is such that it gives them enough time to review, make a recommendation to council, and then for council to decide on that. So their timing is pushed right to the limit on this. So you're right to be wondering about that, Ray.
So if an ISP doesn't meet the deadline, they're just not interested, or
Well, they usually tell you if they're not. They use, you know, if they don't make it, I don't know if,
They'll decline or just ignore it.
yeah,
But as I said, with one ISP, it was like within a half hour of the release of that, where they were asking, can we have an extra week? Or could the deadline go out an extra week due to the July 4th holiday and people's vacations? So,
and if we're using Eastport's, if we're looking at theirs and
Yeah.
basically using some of the same words, we would be asking for possible regional bill too.
so the ISPs, if yours came out soon or whatever, relatively soon, as Ray is, you know, talking about, the ISPs would get it. Eastport made an allusion to a bigger geographical area, hinting there are communities who may be interested. The ISPs are not, they've already met with you. They know that you're wanting to know. So there was a hint that this could be a bigger geographical area, but Eastport is asking, and not on behalf of anybody else. And so that's why Perry was never mentioned. You guys don't have an official agreement. It was just like, you know, hint, hint, this
Right.
could be bigger. So think about it's not just Eastport, guys. Not you guys. ISPs, think about it. Hint, hint. There's a couple of other towns that might be interested.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Shouldn't that be what we do as well? This was my point.
well, I happen to like those weasel words.
So, I mean, it's up to you guys what you want to do. And as to whether or not, um, I I can't imagine that Eastport would not be allowed to share the RFP with you. I can't imagine it, but Ray, again, you're right to check with Mission Broadband.
It depends on
And Eastport.
who owns the IP. I mean, if Mission Broadband gave it to Eastport, then Eastport owns it. In which case, Ken has already given it to us.
So Eastport is the grant recipient, and through that grant, Mission Broadband has been paid to do this on behalf of the city of Eastport, which
Right.
is why I can't imagine that it couldn't be shared. and duplicated. So anyway,
Right, right. Well, we should get the answer to that pretty quickly. Any other points? John, you seem to,
No, I think we should proceed with the RFP. Um, but like Chris, said, it's not a requirement for the grant, and I just don't want to miss an opportunity with the grant money, and just focus on the RFP.
yeah, I think they're
But
independent.
if we do the RFP and you have somebody who's willing to do the grant for us and do all the legwork, doesn't that make sense too?
Of course. I'd love that.
So
If it's a good
do you
deal.
want to take a vote on it? Cause I think we got everybody's feedback on the whole thing.
Sure.
so
I
for
mean,
anybody unfamiliar with an RFP, there's stuff that goes through the whole the process and stuff, and of course Eastport has been more than happy to share information with you as they go through it. um, but with the RFP, they're going to give you every single dirty detail of what it's going to cost, if anything, what the plan is, what they would, and then you choose a partner, and that's who will take on the grant. So I'm going to make this up. Well, obviously, you choose XYZ internet company. XYZ becomes your partner, and XYZ will then lead you through the rest of the process.
Yeah.
They will write the grants. They will submit the grant, like they would want a letter of support, or depending on if you choose an ISP that is saying, look, we can't do the whole thing, we need X amount from the town, whatever. But that whoever you choose, for whatever reasons you choose them, you make that recommendation to your select board. They decide to go forward or not, and then you're officially partners and that ISP, because the grants are extremely technical. Like how many wires, bolts, nuts, yeah. So they're extremely technical. So you would
I'm
choose
pretty
a partner.
sure I remember that CCI, DBU, and Axiom said they would write the grant.
Yeah,
Spectrum may have said it too, but I can't remember.
They will. Yeah.
Yep, they said, I remember them saying that.
They will.
Okay, so all four of
All
the
of them.
people that we're interested in would do this for us,
All of them will.
which is good. I'm very happy with that.
Well, they recognize that's their job. If they want this grant, they know what's being looked for. They know what information is needed. And if they want this money, they need to provide information that you and me, we're not qualified to even list every single thing that needs to be lashed, or every loop and we're not qualified to do that. And they know it. So if they're partnering, they will do everything in their power to get that grant. Yeah. So I
Can
hope that
somebody make a,
helps.
can somebody make a motion?
I make a motion that we proceed with an RFP.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Okay,
Motion passes. Very good. So I'm gonna be optimistic and say that we're gonna get the final RFP from Eastport probably today. And hopefully they'll find out from Mission Broadband. And if that is positive and we have no impediments, then I'm going to start working on crafting some language. And Elaine, you're more than welcome to jump in. I mean, I don't think there's that much to do in terms of our own research. We've got information, data from our survey, and there's census data out there and so on and so forth. So I think the factual information is all readily available to us, and we just have to write it in a clever, useful way.
So I will say with Esports RFP, because I was involved with all of it, is that they left it open. The RFP was crafted to leave it open to all ISPs. They did make a preference known that they wanted end-to-end fiber, and their preference was for a municipally owned model, but that was not required. So they made it they left the door wide open to everything. Come
Right.
one, come all, give us your
Right.
best offer.
Right.
This is what we prefer, but it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would certainly want to do that too, because I don't want to eliminate people just by telling them this is exactly what we want.
and
I
so
don't
it
think,
went out to 8 ISPs, I believe. I believe
Really?
it was 8 that it went out to. Yeah.
wow, okay, well, okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't think there was that many out there.
Well, we talked to what, 5?
5 or 6.
Yeah. There
Well,
are
that's right, 6.
likely to be a couple that may not answer, but they were invited
Okay,
to participate. So there's some that I would expect not to hear from, that the Eastport won't hear from them, but you never know. So yeah, but I believe it was 8 all told. Yep.
okay.
Yep. And Eastport, as you know, has no problem sharing any of their information with you guys at all. So
Yeah, they've been wonderful. Okay, the second question I had on here was, do we continue to plan for the MCA grant proposal? And what I really want to bring up is, how do we navigate the MCA requirement for the town's financial commitment? Because it's a lot of money. And if we have a situation where, never mind. I'll just leave the question there and see what you think.
if I can, if you don't mind, Ray, if I can jump in to kind of explain some of that. Excuse me. MCA is looking for a commitment of for like municipalities. I think the current amount is $700 per address, sort of thing. From ISPs, they're asking for like $1,000 per address. I will say that in some communities, the ISP, the partnering ISP, has paid that on behalf of the community.
Oh.
Yup.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of teased Simon with that question, and he played his cards really close to his vest and wouldn't say.
Well, in all fairness, Simon, I don't think has the authority to determine that. He can certainly pass it on. I don't think he has but
Sure.
in all fairness, I don't think he does. But I do know. So Simon, I'm sure you guys remember, works for Consolidated Fidium Fiber, and they're doing the the Greater East Grand build out. So that's like 11 communities. And so Consolidated paid the community match
And
for all.
I remember Simon saying that it would not be a deal breaker if the town did not have the money
Mhm.
Thank you.
and such words.
Thank you.
And they did for 11 communities. And so it was one regional build, so it made sense for CCI Consolidated to do that. And so it encompasses like 11, I believe 11 communities that in Washington County and part of Southern Aroostook and part of Penobscot. So they saw this big picture And
Well-
that's why it's, a regional build, or when an ISP sees potential to build out, oh, we could partner with Perry, Pleasant Point, and Eastport. Now it's starting to make more sense for a business model to do that. But I will tell you that, yes, CCI or Consolidated did do the community matches on that.
It seems to me, well, let me just chicken walk to what Chris was suggesting last week in terms of thinking about partnering with other different communities around here. And he mentioned Pembroke and West Pembroke, and I think maybe one other, I can't remember what. Not Charlotte.
He was talking about Robbinston, and
No, that wasn't it.
oh, he was with me talking about Robbinston.
Oh, okay.
So one thing that so Chris and I spoke briefly a couple of days ago about the idea of seeing if trying to tie in Pembroke and some other towns to make the regional build more attractive to MCA and to the ISPs.
Yeah. Well, getting back to this grant that you're talking about that CCI is going after for this, what do you call it, the grand build?
The Greater East Grand Region, they were awarded that in
Oh,
the
they were
last
awarded. Okay.
8.1 million.
Didn't they, wasn't it CCI that took the initiative to pull that together? Or was
No.
it one community? The communities actually got together?
A lot of them. Yep. And I think it was close to 2 years in the planning before all 11 communities tied together and said, so they went to RFP and they got them all. And the 11 communities said CCI or Consolidated Fidium Fiber, whatever. So that's what they decided. And as a big region, and so at that point, CCI says, okay, we'll put in for the Main Connectivity Authority grant, and they were awarded the 8.1 million in the first round of funding to build out all those towns with fiber.
But what you said about it took them 2 years to do that, that's the key information that I really needed to understand. Because, my horizon at this point is too short for us to do anything of that magnitude. Even if we had the names and numbers of all these people to contact and everything. I mean, I just don't think we could do something like that.
I think what Chris and I have not met with him, we talked about meeting next week, but I think what his idea is that to partner with something like CCI, what the communities would need to do is to meet with CC. I'm sorry? Oh, I thought somebody said, anyway, to these communities to pull together and say,
I think Scott wants to say something.
oh, sorry.
Well,
Were you trying to say something, Scott?
No,
Oh, okay. There was just some background noise, I guess.
sorry.
So I think what Chris was thinking was if there were a big enough region, say, he did mention Pembroke to me, and Perry, he did to me, he mentioned Robbinston, and, some other towns, that perhaps, Dennisville, something like that, where
Yeah,
those
Dennisville.
towns
Yeah.
could pull together. And if it appealed to, say, CCI, to build that out, basically what the towns would need to do is to write a letter of support saying, yes, we're happy to partner with CCI for a fiber build in our community. And so therefore it all gets squished in and CCI takes over from there. Consolidated takes over and writes the grants because now you've all said, yes, we're happy to partner. Yes, Main Connectivity Authority, we're happy to have this in our community.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Chris was talking about.
Well, that
Well,
makes sense.
Isn't Robinson one that took the bulk rate for 5 years or something like that?
So there's a lot of confusion surrounding Robinson and whether it was a bulk rate service offer or not. What I have seen, the only thing I have seen is a franchise agreement. I do have friends that live in Robinson, and they went to the town office and inquired, and they were told by the town it is not a bulk service rate option. That all they did was sign a franchise agreement to allow Spectrum to in their right away. So that's what I was told. When I looked at the town website, that's all I saw was a franchise agreement, which would not preclude, say, Fidium Fiber CCI from coming through and doing fiber as well.
Hmm.
It wouldn't preclude them from that.
Okay.
If it's a bulk service agreement, it still would not preclude another ISP from coming through. But people who don't want the bulk service offer, say through Spectrum, they would still have to pay for it anyway.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So I don't, my understanding, I think there's a lot of confusion around that, but what research I've done into it looks like all it was a franchise agreement. That's all I've seen. Then I had Chris look into it and he saw it and he's like, that's just a franchise. And I say, yeah, I know. So I think people got confused, maybe it appears to be, thinking like a franchise, like a restaurant franchise, as opposed to franchise, you're allowing us into your right of way on the side of the road. That's all. So basically, yeah.
A few weeks ago, Scott, you mentioned that we should probably just contact Tom Holland and have a discussion with him.
Uh,
Do you all think we should do that? I do.
Yeah, and Tom very much would. I think he'd love to meet with us. I also work with Kevin every day, but Tom's very blunt. He's very blunt. He says it exactly how he sees it. So, but he's a real nice guy. He's incredibly smart. Um, he's a friend, so I'm obviously going to brag him up a little bit. But he's just he's going to be blunt.
Do you want
And
me to
he's
give him a contact and see if we can get him in a couple of weeks then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He'd sit in a heartbeat. But he's very much a very pro Spectrum. He's doesn't have enough good to say about him, and he has plenty to say about the competitors.
That's fine.
But yeah.
Well, why don't we agree to do that? We're losing your audio, Scott.
Sounds good. Can you hear me? I'm sitting in my truck.
Okay, yeah, you can now.
Yeah, I would be all in favor of meeting with Tom.
Just let me know when and I'll send him the invite.
I'll do it. If you don't mind.
To the Zoom link?
Oh, no, not the Zoom link. I mean, just getting him interested.
Yes. Just let me know what date you decide on,
Right.
and I will send him the Zoom link.
Okay.
Well, not next week though, because you won't be here, Ray.
Correct. Correct. I'm gonna take some vacation. Even retired people take vacations.
Can you imagine?
No. What's that like?
I
John
just
goes
happen
to
to like
Bangor.
I like going up to Greenville. It's a nice place.
Hmm.
All right. I still would like to see us do some data collection. And I know, John, that we haven't done it yet, but I still would like to do the drive-bys on the Spectrum territory and get an estimate of, well, first of all, verify what they told us is true, that their cable goes here and there. That's easy to do. And we could probably knock that off in about 2 or 3 hours, I would think. And now that I've got the list of addresses, we got an easy way of going about this.
Yep, just let me know when you want to do it, and then I'll check my schedule. But yeah, we can do it.
Good show. As long as people don't try to run us off the road. The second thing that I think we've talked about a little bit, and maybe it's premature for doing this, but I think Eastport is already going forward with doing speed testing of individuals and using a mechanism where people go online on a specific website and they do the speed test, and that information is actually logged there and collected for Eastport to use. Do you think this is something that would be good to have in hand? I mean, if we take the information now, I don't think it's going to change unless something changes in Perry, and I don't think it is, by and large, anyway. I mean, I think, Elaine, you've got everything that we would need to do to put. We'd have to put it into our Facebook and website postings. Maybe even do a little things with the posters like we did for the survey. That seemed to work reasonably well.
So the Maine Broadband Coalition has a speed testing link on their website, and that speed testing information is captured by Maine Broadband Coalition. So what Eastport is going to do is they are putting that link, that the thing there that says, "Hey, what's your speed?" Onto their Facebook page, where people can then take the speeds and record in the comment section. I don't use Facebook comment section or whatever it is, what their speeds were. Because part of the problem, part of the issue is that right now Eastport is considered served because they have a large spectrum footprint. And so that appears to be messing with the possibility of grant funding for them.
Right.
So, and it appears to be Zabaic might be in the same boat. So that's what they're doing as kind of a challenge to, are we really served? What are your speeds really? Just because XYZ service provider says this is what they offer doesn't mean that's what we're getting.
Right.
So Eastport doesn't get that information. They'll gather it through people posting on the Facebook page. I just took it. This is what my speed is.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And what was the name of what'd you say,
It's
the main
Maine Broadband Coalition.
coalition? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Well, I think that could be posted on the website and on
Right.
the Perry Facebook page
Y'all think we should do that?
for sure.
Yeah, I mean that. It was available, and I did the speed test.
Yeah, me too.
So then what you would get people to do is to take it, like, you guys could start the ball rolling and, click on it, take the test, and then just in the comment, like I said, I don't use Facebook, whatever it is, and say, my speed is whatever it is. To start to kind of understand what speeds people have. Eastport's going forward with that because It's being reported that Eastport has speeds of this, these speeds, and so which is probably going to preclude them from grant funding. So
Right.
they're doing it as like a community-wide test. Is this really what you're getting?
Okay.
That's why they're doing it.
Mhm.
I'll be right back, guys.
Tina, do we have an administrator for our Facebook page? I've just been giving, I've just been giving things to Ann, I think.
Yeah, so Anne right now is currently, does the Facebook, and she's gonna hand that all over to me
Oh,
in the near future. But currently she holds the login information, so but I
okay.
can just reach out to her until I get it, but she's on vacation until the 26th.
Until when? 26?
26.
Wow.
Yeah, she'll be back from her cruise before then, but
Oh,
she'll still be on vacation until that Monday
okay,
for work wise, but
right.
yeah, that will be passed on to me in the near future.
Well, maybe we can just use that time to get our ducks in a row and figure out exactly what we would ask her to do to actually build a page for us. So
Right,
that
yeah,
people know where to go and put their information, right?
we'd probably have to build it that way and then just have her insert it.
Okay,
Same with the website. Tom Mulholland does the website.
yeah, I know that. I've been
So,
sending him my stuff.
oh, yeah, right. So yeah,
He's faster than the speed of light, I tell you. Well, do you have any other discussions that you want to have today? I deliberately have not talked about the digital equity thing because I thought that if you guys wanted to talk about something besides me, you could talk about that next week.
besides talking about you. Good one.
Because we're coming up on our hour anyway. Feels so good to get our hour back.
Yeah. Well, that will give us something to discuss next week then, I guess.
Okay,
If
great.
we don't discuss it tonight.
Well, if there are no more items, why don't we adjourn?
We'll have a nice vacation.
Thank you. I hope I get some sunshine.
Yeah, me too.
Take care,
Then
everyone.
bring it back with you.
I'd love to. Thank you very
All right,
much for
good
your
night,
contribution.
everyone.
Good
All
night,
right,
everyone.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.